All right, thank you everybody for joining me tonight for our alumni panel. And to get started, I will turn it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. And so the first question is just to introduce yourself with your name, where you're currently working, your job title, and then why you decided to do the MSTI program. So first I'm gonna call on Vivian. So tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, thanks for having me here tonight. So I'm Vivian Huang. I'm currently a technical product manager at Moody's Northwest Consulting. So I'm currently working on a design language system and style guide with the front-end dev team for my client at T-Mobile. So yeah, that's kind of what I do right now. And why I joined MSTI is because and always been passionate about like product management and like to explore more about like product technology and design, like all how that interact with each other. So I think there's like a cool program that I can leverage those areas. So
Great, thanks Vivian. Let's go with Sean. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Sean. I'm currently working at Microsoft as a software engineer. And I joined MSCI because I wanted to have interdisciplinary education that focused on cutting edge technology, how to use it to help people, and create a business from it.
Great, thank you. All right, Archie, how about you?
Hi everyone, I'm Archie. Currently I'm working with User Research International as a UX researcher. And so previously I did my undergrad in electrical engineering, and post that I felt like I wanted to gain skills from various other disciplines. So kind of like having that interdisciplinary background, still figuring out what I really wanted to do. So I thought MSTI was like the perfect program since we had courses from all these different schools. So that's why I joined MSTI.
Thanks. And last but not least, Yifan.
Yeah, hi, my name is Yifan Liu. I'm currently working for EA Gaming Company. I'm actually located in Bay Area now, different from the other three panelists. And why I did the MSCI program. So I was an undergrad at UW. So I followed the development of GIX from like when it started. So I was excited to see that it's offering a master's degree. And so I also was always interested in technology and business. And then as an undergrad, I studied art and design. And so I felt like GIX was tailored for me. So I just applied and luckily I got in.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that, everyone. So the next question that I have is, what was your career goal before you started the MSTI program? And did that change, or did that stay the same throughout your time in the program? So why don't we start the answer to this question with Archie? How about you?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was actually an electrical engineer, and I did do some internships, just trying to figure out kind of like what my likes and dislikes were as an engineer. And obviously, like I didn't have enough interest to work in the electrical field. So after MSTI, I came across the whole concept of design thinking and UX, conducting user experience research. And I was like, okay, I think this is the area I want to be in. And so yeah, I definitely made like kind of like a drastic switch in my career. And yeah, I think it was a difficult path to become a researcher, but right now I'm just so happy that I'm in the field that I want to be in.
Great, thanks. How about Vivian?
yeah, so my career focus has always been software product management. It did not change much throughout the program, but I did learn a lot and kind of broaden the search like focus for product management, because previously I was mainly focusing on software management. But then throughout the program, I also get to explore like hardware and other types of technology.
All right, next, Sean.
So I graduated from undergrad at UW in info, and I kind of saw my classmates graduate and go on to become like UX designers, PMs, coders, kind of like some of the things that after the program people have gone into. And for me personally, like about career goals, I kind of was like vague and kind of swaying between a lot of different career job titles. I was like, you know, I couldn't commit myself throughout the program, and I was kind of exploring it as I went along. And even today, like I still like and appreciate all the different types of work, even though technically I'm technically paid to code. But definitely like the experience I had at GIX gives me a holistic perspective on new situations and problems, and how I interact with people like from all those different perspectives. So even today, just a short answer, like I'm still like working on my career goal and shaping that.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
A-okay. Yeah, Yifan.
Yeah, so my career goal before GIX was kind of vague. I know that I want to work as a designer and I want to work in the tech industry, but I wasn't sure, what what kind of projects I want to be in, and how does a project team work, like how does PM work with designers and engineers. But through GIX, I got a clear understanding of how a project team works, and then um, maybe solidified my thinking, like my role as a designer. I do enjoy designing things and being a UX designer, and so I think GIX helped like zoom into something that I like. And then I think one important thing that that changed through in GIX was before I was just thinking of what I'm doing as a designer, and through GIX, I get a more holistic view of the project and business goals and like tech requirements and stuff. So I thought that was quite helpful.
All right, next question is, what opportunities did you take advantage of in the program to help you work toward your career goals? So what are some things that you guys did while you were in the program that helped you out? So I'm going to start actually with Yifan. Will you begin this time?
Yeah, so one big thing that I felt I took advantage of is the launch project. So at GIX, my launch project topic was gaming. And before that, I didn't have any experience working with anything gaming besides being a gamer. So I thought the launch project really helped me gain insight in like game making and how hard it is to produce a game, and like the different perspective, different areas of gaming that it touches. So I thought that was something that I took advantage of.
All right, Archie, how about you?
For me, I made use of the mentorship program, and actually, till recently, I was in touch with the mentor that I met through the GIX platform, and I would also say like just utilizing that to like network more. So he was able to connect me with more people, and even like talking with my professors, because since I was entering a new field on what to focus on. And who to connect with. So that kind of helped me build, and it was like a gate through to getting advice. And so, yeah.
All right, Vivian, how about you?
Yeah, I would echo to Ifan about launch project and also other projects throughout the course, because pretty much every class you need to do a project. I think it's amazing in the way that you can explore different topics. For example, you would like to know more about education space, know more about gaming, and you have that safe kind of playground to explore for a quarter or two, and to see if you have more interest, if you like to proceed, or kind of take the learning from there to move forward with the career. So.
And finally, Sean.
Yes. For me, there were quite a lot of things. I actually listed it out. Um, just touch on it briefly. One very memorable thing that I really enjoyed and I took advantage of was going to San Francisco for my launch project. Archie should know we were on the same team for AT&T, and what we did was we went to the flagship store in San Francisco along with like Nike, Apple, and we were trying to create a in-store innovative experience for new customers in the store, and that was pretty cool. Another thing is like I took advantage of presenting to. I volunteered to present as many times as I could, and some of them to like pretty high-profile people, which like definitely put me out of my comfort zone. But it's quite amazing to think about, like looking back, like that I was able to do something like that. So definitely, like for me, I tried to challenge myself. Another one is working in the makerspace. I think that was pretty cool, working with Nick and learning the tools a little bit more, and actually like having the opportunity to even ingrain that knowledge further by teaching the second cohort some of those tools. Talking with faculty members. Like one of the things I remember one of my projects, I just emailed Satya, oh not Satya, I'm at Microsoft. I emailed, oh no.
Shredek?
Yes, Shredek, yes. I emailed Shredek and it was like, I could use some perspective on this project and how can I leverage the tools and connections, and he was like kind enough to read through my long email and meet with me. So that was great. But yeah, I guess I could touch on more if we have time later on.
I'm sure there'll be more questions that students have
Yeah.
that you'll get the answer with that. So that's great. All right. Let's see. Next question for you guys. So what is some advice that you got while you were in school that you found really valuable? So what did somebody else tell you that was really helpful for you? I'll let you think about that a little bit. So we'll start this one. How about Vivian? Is there anything anyone told you that you thought was really helpful?
I wouldn't point to like a specific advice, but just kind of the overall, the mindset and kind of the way we're encouraged to think about problems, like in more perspectives and more holistically. I think that definitely helped a lot, like throughout the projects and like all the work. So I would say that's kind of this environment and encouraging vibe that's like pretty helpful.
Thank you. How about Archie?
Yeah, I was just thinking about it, and just to like quickly add on to what Sean said, we were part of the same team for a launch project, and something I think that really helped me was being in part of teams which had like everyone was like from different educational background, so we kind of like help each other like develop new skills. So I like working with like teams who have like different backgrounds. I come from engineering, so I could bring that aspect, and someone else could bring like the design aspect. So like just like learning from each other, I really enjoyed that. And one thing I really liked was being more understanding the problem more rather than just being very, very solution oriented. So that's what I do right now as a job, but like taking a step back and kind of understanding, oh, do we even need to build this? Like, do we understand what the problem really is, and making sure that it really keeping the user's problems and needs in mind before creating that solution, before jumping into creating like a product.
Yufan, would you like to answer?
Yeah, so one thing that I think back to our experiences is how privileged that we are with GIX resources, the 3D printers, the makerspace, it's all there. I even think about it now. If I needed something small, I could have just printed it at GIX, but now I can't. And it's hard to find a 3D printer anywhere close, and then it's expensive to get one. that's just one thing. And then like the networking events, the mentors, and the great connections that GIX is trying to connect you with. Those are really precious resources that's only available for GIX students. So I would say utilize those resources and make the most of it.
All right, and Sean.
So I think the question was like, what is some advice, right? I also, like, same as Vivian, couldn't think, I'm sure there was a lot that I got and that I incorporated into my life, but I couldn't think of a specific one. But I did want to share one thing I've learned from my experience, specifically like working in teams. I think, and Archie, I guess you could also share a different perspective on that as well, because we were on the same team. But I think for me personally, when I was going through the program, I was very focused on perfecting the results, perfecting the final solution to our problem. And sometimes I forgot about, I wasn't as, let me try to think of how to put this. I think I guess the moral is just like, don't just focus on the result, but also like the journey. I guess that's like, be compassionate and gentle and kind with your teammates while also holding them accountable. It's like a fine balance, right? Like hold them to high standards and push the boundaries of innovation, but remember that everyone is a human, and be kind to each other is kind of one of the things.
And also, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just saying, making sure you have a good team charter. That's we had like this team building course, and where we came up with a team charter. Having like very detailed team charter might be helpful working in teams for like long duration.
And I think definitely along like the team charter, definitely like use it as a tool if it achieves the goal, but don't just use tools for the sake of using them as well.
I just want to add, I remember advice that Sean gave me while I was a student.
Wait.
So Sean is a very philosophical guy. And then one time we're just having dinner, and then he said, recently I got this app that sorted out my life. So I was really intrigued. And then so the moral of the story is get whatever you need, whether it's a planner or something that will help you focus, write down things that you want to accomplish, set goals. Those are really important.
That's funny. What was the app? Do you remember?
You don't use it anymore? Oh no.
I don't think I use it anymore. We'll change, but principles stay the same. Oh, that was cringy. Sorry.
Thanks for sharing that. I think what I just learned from that interaction is that it's not just who you're talking to outside of the organization or like the professionals, faculty, but it's also learning from your fellow students. I think that's something that I really enjoy seeing, is when you guys can learn from each other and realize that you have experts amongst you, and it's not always about the external. So that's really cool to see. All right, so next question I have for you guys is, what should all of these students that are joining us tonight, what should they know about job searching while they are in school or after school? But basically would love for you to share a little bit about your job search journey and what you think would be helpful for all of them to know. And I'm actually going to start with Vivian, because I know a little bit about her journey and I think it's a really interesting one. So Vivian.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I kind of have a lot of thoughts on this entire job searching journey. So I'm going to start with kind of just a takeaway. If you forget everything what I said, just take away this. I think there are more than like enough resources online talking about various aspects, like, okay, you have to have the perfect resume, like networking, how to set out your LinkedIn profile, how to do interview preps. But I would encourage people to spend more time actually studying the companies and the team, and if possible, like the specific roles that you're applying to. I probably speak more on the product manager side because all the title are called product manager, and they varies widely in industries and company and even within teams. So that's something I would encourage. And by studying those specific teams and then try to map your personal experience and skill set to the role. That means sometimes you might need to give up like your always go-to stories and your coolest experience, and instead kind of map what your unique experience is linked to that the role you're applying, if that makes sense. I can share more about like how to study like companies or teams later, but generally, even though we're like all remote, there's still a lot of things you can find online, and try to read through the job description, because they usually, the way it works is that it'll have a very generic overview and then generic job description, and perhaps the hiring manager just adds like 2 lines of things that's specific to their teams. Okay, if you're interested in API platform, please join our team. And that's the keyword that you need to catch. Okay, so this is a role about an API platform. It's nothing customer facing or something like that. So you will have a better chance to kind of sell yourself to the hiring managers. And yeah, and the second thing I want to touch upon is like, just think about hiring managers. They're looking for someone who can do probably a specific job that they already have in mind. They just need someone to finish. So they need to have this confidence that, okay, if I hire you, you can do this job well. And of course, like, I hope you can do above and beyond, but at a very bare minimum, you can finish this task. So it's really important kind of point out, like what I just said, that you have this specific experience and skill to do the job, but not necessarily focusing on like, oh, I'm a perfect person. I have this 10 skills and other 20 experience, but not so much related to the role itself. I think understanding this is probably like my biggest takeaway throughout the journey that will help your job hunting journey more smoothly, because it's going to be overwhelming and very hard, and I think it's going to be harder in this like pandemic era. So try to search like strategically and find that sweet spot, like between something you're interested in and something that people are looking to hire. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents here.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a wealth of knowledge, and I hope everybody remembers that. But if not, we'll have a recording so you can refer back to it as well. So next person I'd love to hear from. How about you, Fawn? Let's hear a little bit more about your experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Vivian here. It's definitely important to tailor yourself to the company as well, because they're looking for someone very specific, and then all of the extra stuff that you bring, it's a bonus. And then one other thing that I want to touch on is show your personality, because it's in the interviews, or so if you're in the interview, they went through your resume and they think you can do the job, and then what they're really looking at is a good teammate, someone that they would like to work with, and then fun to work with. So I think don't be afraid to share your personality in interviews and just chat in general. And then other thing is that think of the interview as they getting to know you and you getting to know their company too. So don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions about the job, the company, the team. You can be very, very specific and do research beforehand to get a sense beforehand. And then lastly, I think job hunting is hard. I think everyone can agree. And then it's important to stay positive throughout the process. And then it's not that you're not good. It's just you haven't, the luck hasn't been there yet. you can show a lot of things on the resume, but a lot of things you can't show on the resume. So I think stay positive. All you need is that one person that really like think of you highly, and then you can take it from there.
Thank you. Archie, how about you? I'd love to hear about your experience.
Yeah, I think again, Ifan brought out like some really, really good points. For me, before when I started my job hunt, like prior to that, I didn't have any work experience. So only like some internships. And so like right after my undergrad, I did my master's and I was moving into a field that I was very new to. So it's definitely like studying how to become a good researcher while in the meantime also conducting my job hunt. So, and make sure to start early. I made a mistake to like I was taking it kind of lightly and taking it slow, but do start early. Secondly, networking I felt like was really important. So I made sure I went and spoke to a lot of people. Sometimes I would even like cold email people on LinkedIn. But I did get the chance to go out, grab coffee. I know that's not possible now, but like just talking online or like hopping on a phone call just to kind of get understand their journey, at least in the field of research. That was really helpful for me, like what I should be doing. Should I be working on a portfolio? Even like reviewing my portfolio, making sure I get like some perspective of like senior researchers on my portfolio was very helpful. And what else? A lot of time, sometimes even during interviews, if I got a rejection, sometimes I would like go back and kind of ask like how I could improve. And sometimes you may not get an answer, but sometimes I did, and that was like great helpful for me to like kind of work on that aspect or like that weakness I had. And sometimes it's not like really if you don't get any answer, it's not really a reflection of your capabilities. So just like you gotta stay motivated, and it's okay to like sometimes be low. And like I know how tough it can be to the whole process, but you just gotta make sure that you have your goals straight and like you constantly stay motivated, and you're also like listening to something positive to be afloat and have that energy.
All right, Sean.
I love what has been said so far, and to like stay positive and like to understand that really it's kind of there are things you can control and there are some things that you can't, like the timing and the opportunity, the place, the people. Definitely keeping a positive mindset will help throughout that, and remembering what you do have in control and not what you don't. I think one thing I want to add is from my personal experience, yeah, it is tough, but there's like an experience I want to talk about a little bit. When I got my on-site interview for Microsoft, I scheduled like back-to-back like mock interviews with some of the people I have in my connections. And actually the last day before my my actual on-site interview, the guy was telling me, he was like, "You're not ready." And you know, one of the things, and I heard like very similar things throughout my mock interview, like throughout those 2 weeks. I had like, my point is like, they were very honest, and I made it clear to them that I want their honesty, that if there was something that I was lacking, to tell me straight up and not to hide that, because it will impact the actual end results, right? And of course, you know, it didn't feel very good, and it was also nerve-wracking, and you know, causes anxiety a little bit. But I think for me personally, to face that embarrassing, face that pain, face that possibility of kind of sounding dumb or something, kind of helped me grow like super fast within those 2 weeks, from like going, "You're not ready," all the way to like, you know what, I actually was surprised how well I did on the day of the interview, which like from the night before was like completely different. I think the key was to have not just that they told you you're not ready, but of course, like, what are some of the action items you can do to make sure that you are ready? Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. I know that's not an easy experience to go through. So I appreciate hearing from you and all of you as far as what your experiences have been, especially job searching. As you've all said, job searching can be really difficult. And so I know that it can only get easier when you are able to connect with people that can help you along the way. So I appreciate you all doing that. Next question I have for you guys is, how has what you learned in the MSTI benefited you in the workplace? And I know some of you talked about this a little bit, so you might not have anything else to add, but if you do, I'd love to hear a little bit more, maybe an example of something that you were like, oh, I wouldn't have known this had I not done the MSTI program. So how about we go back to Sean? Sean, do you have anything to share about that?
I had to try to click my mute button but many times. There are actually quite a lot. I think the one thing that I can speak to is the holistic perspective and also the ambition of the program. And I feel like, at least for my cohort, we joined the program because we had very big goals. We wanted to change the world. We wanted to learn about cutting edge technology and work with the best people. And kind of carrying that mentality, as well as learning foundations from many different fields, having all of that kind of behind you while you have a specific role kind of gives you a superpower of having that bigger picture. And personally, I'm really interested, while just, I do have to do the coding, but I also look at news and, the annual shareholder reports, the webcasts speaking to shareholders, as well as different leadership type stuff, and having perspective on the different roles and the value of people and all that. I think that GIX really helps me with that.
Thanks. How about you, Fawn?
Yeah, definitely agree with Sean. I think something that we learn at GIX is the startup mindset, mentality. And then I think even though we are into roles that are very specific, we can still apply some of the principles that we learn at GIX to our tasks at our companies. And one example is that we are doing a new feature, and then I was assigned to it as a designer. And through working with the PM and talking with him, I was able to get a lot of my points across, and then be able to contribute to the product requirement and the vision going forward. So I think even though you're doing very specific things like design or code, you can still contribute to the bigger picture with what you learn at GIX, and it will add to your profile, and I think your peers will see it, and then you'll be able to take on bigger tasks or be in leadership roles in the future.
All right. Archie, how about you?
Yeah, so I feel like during the program, I gained quite a few transferable skills. So my first job was actually with a startup, and I was glad that I could bring in what I learned from my master's and actually apply that in real life, and working with a time crunch, testing a product, getting user feedback, and kind of working with the developer and a designer, so making sure that interaction flow was smooth. I feel like those are some of the skills I gained while I was doing a master's, because I was also working with an interdisciplinary team. Yeah, I guess that would be one of the things.
All right, and Vivian.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. So so if you work in a big corporation, the divide of roles and jobs, it will be more each role is more divided and separated out. So kind of don't underestimate the wealth of knowledge that you gain in MSTI, like you'll be surprised that it's not everyone knows everything about user evaluation, user research, at the same time knows about coding and business. So that's like a really precious asset that you can leverage at work.
Thank you. All right, so now we are just about at 6:40, which is when I want to turn it over to all of the students that we have here with us. So for those of you that have a burning question, I'd love for you to either ask via the chat or to kind of keep us regulated. If you could use the wave hand feature, then I could call on you so you can ask your question using your microphone. So those are the two ways that you can ask your question. But now I'd like to turn over the question asking to you guys and see what you want to hear about from our panelists. So let me know what you guys would like to hear. All right, Codes, I see you. Feel free to ask.
Yeah, I was wondering, so did you guys all do like mock interviews to practice? And if so, like, I guess when did you guys start doing those?
I guess I can start. For me, I started as soon as I got the on-site. I mean, before that, I was for my like software engineering, I was doing a lot of leak code, but mock interviews specifically in front of like a whiteboard in front of a person, that I started as soon as I got the on-site. But I actually recommend you can start like earlier, or if you want to, yeah, just to give you a little bit less anxiety and less time pressure. But yeah, did I answer your question? Was it just?
Yeah, I'm going for software engineering as well, but I wasn't sure if like everybody does mock interviews or, yeah.
I think it's actually quite helpful to have, and especially not just like one person mock interview. For me, I actually like was lucky enough to leverage people at like Facebook, at Microsoft, at like different companies to give me like different perspectives. And of course, I wasn't actually just applying to Microsoft. And so having kind of a industry knowledge of, what they're all looking for, and kind of like the competition, as well as like how the qualities of the difficulties of the interviews across companies, and the structure as well. To have them tell you kind of a little bit about the structure really helps. Not just like, I think one of the things that I think is super valuable, not just like the technical knowledge of how to solve the problem, is kind of the structure of the interview and the pace and the interaction. And that's something you can't really do by yourself in a room. And the more like exposure you have with like different people and different problems, like actually writing it up is actually very different.
Yeah,
hopefully that's helpful.
Off what Sean said, I also did start like once I got set a date for my first interview. But again, like every company culture is different. Like Amazon has these 14 principles, and I made sure that I had a situation I could talk to for each of those principles. And sometimes for every team is different. They might be focusing on different principles. So just making sure that you do your research, and just so you feel more prepared before going for an interview.
All right, anyone else want to tackle that question? Doesn't look like it. That is okay. So next question we had in the chat was actually about the mock interview. So Justice, I wanted to ask, is there anything else you were hoping to learn about mock interviews from the panelists? And you can feel free to respond via chat if you prefer.
I think Cody is asking like was asking about the same question. I believe Sean already answered it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was also curious about like who did you practice with, but yeah, I think he just answered it. Thank you.
Okay, Great. And I will give a kind of shout out to our services. So if you are wanting to do some mock interviews for technical interviews, I can help you try to find some people or locate them to do those with. So while I don't do any mock interviews for technical questions because I'm not an expert in coding, I am able to help you find people that can help you with that as well. So great, awesome. So our next question comes from Tommy. So Tommy, there's a few embedded in here. So I will kind of see what we can do, and then I'll turn it over to the panelists. So the question is, what was your strategy when looking for a job? In particular, did you target positions in Seattle or on the West Coast first? And then how about looking for diverse positions like product manager and software engineer at the same time, because you guys are so multidisciplinary? So kind of a few things there of how did you approach it and what did you do to approach it? So who would like to start?
I can start on that. So I think definitely have something in mind before your job search. The job search itself, it's a way to learn about your interests too. So sitting down and then looking at the map of the U.S., you want to pick out some areas that you want to focus. I think that really helps. And also for different job titles, I do feel like you should narrow it down to one or two at least. And for each company, I wouldn't recommend applying for PM and a software engineer at the same time, because a lot of times the recruiter can see your record, and then they'll say, oh, this guy's want to be a PM, but he's also applying for software engineer. So they will come the question like, oh, is he good at this or good at this? So I would say at least for each company, don't do multiple job titles at once.
All right, anyone else want to answer, tackle those questions?
I think this was previously mentioned, but kind of like tailoring yourself instead of like mass applying for jobs like all over the country, just like kind of tailoring your resume and your portfolio or to a specific company and role really helps. Like it'll make you stand out from all the other candidates. It shows that you've done your research. So that way you're kind of prepared. You're like focusing on that particular role.
Yes. I'd just like to add one more thing is because you were asking about like strategy. So maybe another way to think at it is you can set milestone for yourself. For example, you're still exploring, maybe have a timeline that you research about PMs and software engineers. And then by a certain time, then you will narrow down and kind of focus on that. Could also be an option. And in terms of like target cities, the same applies. You can say, okay, I want to start focusing on maybe Seattle first, but if it doesn't go well, maybe I could expand the search area further. So just having some plan and some decision tree for yourself, and I think that will make you feel more peaceful and kind of ease throughout the journey.
I agree with everything that's been said so far, but I'd like to add, there's, especially for bigger companies, they have a lot of like resources online in terms of like the kind of culture, the kind of questions, the kind of experience that you might encounter during your interviews. I would try to like look through that, and it'll be helpful to like not confuse between companies as well while you're looking at it. And I would also say that to try to, based on that research, to anticipate some of the questions you might be asked and prepare in advance for those and kind of get them like, pretty second nature, so that instead of maybe focusing on delivering the answer, you could actually express yourself a little bit more, like showcase your personality, because you know how to answer those questions so well. if you can like practice to that level, that could help.
All right, thank you all. It looks like we are in need of some more questions, so feel free to raise your hand or use the chat. Okay, it looks like Codes has some more. Wondering a little bit more about researching companies. What resources did you use when you were doing it? And since there's a lot of information online, how did you target what you're researching? Did you seek out people that you know? How did you keep it all in your brain at once? Very good question, Codes. Yeah, there's a lot to do, and there's a lot of research to sift through and a lot of places to go. So yeah, who wants to get started on this?
Yeah, I can take on this one.
Yeah.
First of all, like definitely no one can keep it all in the brain. So having like a master documentation, kind of make good use of like tabs or headings, so it can help you organize all the findings you have. And about researching companies, yeah, there's either two ways, like you kind of research online and make good use of LinkedIn, not just to like connect people, even with people that you can't connect with or they're not like available for connecting. Read through their experiences because people put a lot of info on there as well. For example, if you're looking for, say, a role in Dynamic 365 in Microsoft, and search for those people who actually work in there, and you will see their accomplishment or what projects they're working on. So you kind of get a sense, okay, this is probably something I would be asked during the interview, or this is something, am I interested in doing projects like this person? You don't necessarily have to meet them, but if you can, that's like definitely great. You can talk to them, ask about the experience, but if not, like there's plenty of things you can read through and kind of stalk people online that will help you get more information.
Yeah, adding to that, I think finding people that are on the same team really helps. Not only getting to know the project stuff they're working on, sometimes they can help you in the interviewing process too. Maybe they're one of the interviewers. So I think just connecting with them, talking to them, and then show more of yourself. Sometimes even if they're not on the same team, they can put in a good word for you, and then it will really help. Yeah.
So I would just want to add two things. You might already know this, but at least for bigger companies, referrals, definitely use referrals. And second is the STAR method. That is kind of what everyone is talking about. So that is situation, task, action, result. That if you use that method, it kind of forms like a story. So you're like, okay, so this is the question, the situation, and then this is what I did, and this was the result of it. So that way they kind of know your thought process.
I think one thing that could help you organize, like it's kind of a lot of knowledge, right? A lot of companies. For me, I use like a one pager for like each company and that role, so that I don't get distracted, especially reviewing that a lot before the interview.
All right, thank you for all of your information. I think that's really helpful, especially because there is so much to look at on the internet and so much to sift through and a lot to do with that. So our next question comes from Justice again. So besides projects that you guys did at GIX, is there anything else you would recommend to put on the resume or talk about in an interview that can help all of these great students stand out in their job search or in an interview?
Yeah, I think you can definitely add at least one thing about like your hobby or interest. For example, you have run a student club of a specific area, or you have participated in this volunteer camp or something. It's not like if you necessarily have to add this, but sometimes it's a topic opener and people kind of just talk about it, or if not, it just looks nice on the resume, I guess. So, and I think before like thinking if you have anything else that you need to add to resume, probably encourage kind of look through the experience you already have and how do you refine and tailor the story to the interviewer.
Yeah, and also I think any side projects that you're working on, those are really good because it shows that you're motivated, you're passionate about something, and you're very driven. Yeah.
I think one thing that all of us, being an MSTI student, can highlight is that we understand the intersection between BXD, that's like business, technology, and research or design. And that's one thing you can always highlight while you're talking. And other is modifying your elevator pitch, or like there'll always be, oh, tell me about yourself, or like introduction, like modifying it based on the company that you're interviewing with. And kind of like also towards the end, adding what value you can bring to this position.
Yeah, and one thing is it's definitely an iterative process. I had like probably 30, 40 different like resume versions, like for different companies, different roles, and it's just like what we mentioned earlier. Just take a little bit of time to, like, as Aoife mentioned, like you kind of learn about your interests as well as while you're job hunting, right? And when you see the job positions and stuff. So have an open mind as you go through the process, and be kind to yourself. Don't think that you're not good enough. You guys got into MSTI. You guys are great. So definitely like stay motivated, stay positive, and the iteration is a process, and it will happen.
All right, so last call. Any last burning questions? Looks like Tommy's got one. What's your approach to doing an elevator pitch to introducing yourself when you were asked that? And how did you guys introduce your experience at GIX during the interview? Tommy is especially interested in introducing it in the software engineer, I think, interviews, or from that perspective. So yeah, anyone want to take a stab at this question?
Software engineer. To you, Sean.
Oh, it's me. Okay. I remember like Alicia actually provided like a pretty good like a little blurb. I remember that. I don't know if yeah, like how to describe and talk about GIX. But let me see. Let me look at the question again.
Yeah, I do have some of that on the Career Search Toolkit, which is on the intranet. So you can feel free to take a look at some of that information there. But I'm also happy to talk with anyone about that too.
I think to answer that question, I think that would depend on the company that you're interviewing with. There might be like a easy answer, right? Like, but it really does depend on you. First, do your research on what they're interested in, right? And then kind of based on that, think about what kind of experience that you've had at MSTI, or even before, or even in your own life, that could kind of like address that interest or pique their interest further. You kind of have to tailor it based on the audience.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. Do some research on the interviewing company first, and then because MSTI, you touch on so many projects and different quarters, there's a lot you can talk about, and then I would suggest not just sticking with one pitch. GIX, business design, engineering, we do projects. Talk about your project that's relevant to them. For example, when I interview at EA, I talk a lot about our launch project, about gaming and stuff. And then it happens that what they're trying to do is very similar to what we did for our launch project. And that's what caught their eye. So yeah, definitely talk about your projects in depth. If they're really interested in it, that's a great thing.
And I just want to add, Alicia is a great resource, and if you guys haven't talked to her, definitely schedule some time, and I think that will help you move forward.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
the 3 panelists are in Seattle, so schedule some time with them too.
Yeah, I was
Well,
actually
we're all
going to
virtual.
ask.
Don't forget,
Oh, yeah.
schedule time with me. Fun.
Well, if you guys are interested or are able to be contacted by the students, I would be happy to share information out with them. So I won't put you on the spot right now, but I'll reach out and see. And then if you are, I can send that out to the students as far as how they can contact you. And then the final question. So I'm going to do our last question here is from codes again. So it seems like for technical roles like software engineering, they have a varied set of requirements and understanding of technologies depending upon what you'll be working on. Cody specifically wants to work on cloud stuff, and he doesn't think that GIX really prepares specifically for cloud necessarily. So the question is, did you feel the same, and how did you ensure you knew or substituted knowledge for these things?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so I feel like there's still a lot of flexibility in projects at GIX. I don't know if it's still the same, but we get to name, like define our project in the beginning of each quarter. So I feel like if you're really interested in something, you can play that in to your project some way or another. So yeah.
Pretty much what I was gonna say.
Archisa, Vivian, either one of you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think you can kind of, especially for your launch project, you can kind of choose, or even for your other projects, actually, like the field. Yeah, and I feel like MSTI, GIS provides like a lot of resources. So if you're like really interested in learning like the cloud platform, I think you can like start looking into it and maybe ask like, okay, I need this for these are the specific resources I need. I remember for our ML class, we did use Azure or AWS? I don't remember, but I think we did interact with the cloud platform, at least for our ML class. Oh, it was Azure.
Yeah, Archie just reminded me, you know, this kind of thing you will encounter probably in your workplace as well. Like, you know, even at a company like Microsoft's, you know, you're not always directly given that kind of knowledge. Like even in my work, I have like specific things to deliver on and things I'm interested in learning. So I would encourage you, like if you're interested in the cloud, to be that expert and, you know, be that resource for other GIX members as well, or GIX students. And it's something like if you can take the initiative and be that expert, it'll be helpful for you even when you do start work.
Yeah, and just to add, at work we just had a hackathon event too. So maybe you guys can organize something at GIX, utilize your time, and then work on things that you're passionate about. Just a suggestion.
All great suggestions for sure. So we had one more question come in, and I actually really like this question, so I'm going to ask it. Did you negotiate your salary before taking your offer? And if you did, were there any strategies that you thought would be helpful to share? And we'll make this our last question, and then we'll wrap up right after. So, anyone want to tackle that?
I can tackle that. This is the secrets, right? The negotiation. This is the juicy stuff. For me, I negotiated with Microsoft using a project at GIX actually, and I didn't even have another offer when I negotiated. So you know, there's probably like, you might think you always have to have like another offer. That's definitely helpful, but I think it's definitely possible as well to also negotiate without an offer and to kind of back it up. And I did back it up with a project at GIX. So yeah.
And I would say be straightforward with your expectations and stuff. The recruiter would try their best to match your expectations. So I think don't be afraid to, you know, well, first do your research, you know, and propose something that's you know, is in their range and you're happy with. Yeah.
I think, at least in my experience at Microsoft, like I kind of went more than I thought I could probably get. And no, they didn't. They came back to me and said, you know what, we can't do all of these, but we can do like these. And you know, that's kind of a process that you can. Don't be afraid to start.
All right, thank you for sharing about that question. I would like you all to know that I do advising on salary negotiations, and this year for cohort 2 thus far, I've helped increase salaries by over $100,000. So just so you know, I'm happy to help you with all of that. And then I know I said that was one last question, but I missed one. And so I just want to ask this one. It's actually directed to probably our chiefs is the best one. So particularly from Kelsey, who's I know also focused on UX. How did you go about applying for UX design versus UX research roles? And if going more UX research roles, how would you pitch yourself, especially when a lot of the candidates might have a PhD degree?
Yeah, that is a good question. And especially if you see like a lot of UX research roles, one, they're pretty niche, and second, they want someone who already have some kind of experience. So for me, what helped was initially like working with the startup, just so I'm like not wasting any time, and I can also be in the field that I like, and also gaining that startup experience. So I was just the sole researcher initially, kind of doing what I thought was right, until like I worked with Blink and Microsoft, where I kind of was able to work with senior researchers. So what really helped was making sure that you kind of portray your interest and how your journey has been. And I know it's difficult to, I mean, there are definitely a lot of PhD candidates, but if you like have a good portfolio, again, networking really helps connecting you with people. And also like contract roles is really good to get that experience. And a lot of times also I converted to like full-time or can get extended. And that way you're getting that experience and building connections. I also did a lot of research on the company. And again, I know I keep telling this, but I did meet with a lot of people just to make sure that I'm with my capabilities, I'm making sure that I do everything that's possible. That is like having the right resume, the portfolio, making sure I know what skills to work on, and also like, again, doing a lot of like mock interviews and making sure my elevator pitch is like perfect. So yeah, a lot of iterations as mentioned. As for standing out, since I had an engineering background previously, I also leveraged that to be plus point, saying that I can also collaborate easily with engineers and collaborate with designers and kind of understand the technical aspect too. So kind of figuring out what your superpower is and leveraging that and making sure you highlight that during your talk, during your interviews.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think domain knowledge is pretty important too. So for us, as a gaming company, you do need a lot of knowledge of gaming. And so I think when we're hiring, we really look for that passion for gaming, and then know know the industry inside out. I think if you find something that in your past, whether it's a project or side project or something you're passionate about, I think you can really show it through your resume or shoot through your portfolio, and that will really help your job search. And I think companies will see that and identify you as a good candidate, even though you only have a master's degree and others have a PhD degree.
And you can also tell your thoughts on this, Ifan, but for me personally, I think it was easier to focus on like one role instead of doing both like design and research. I know there are some roles definitely where you can do both, but I think it's better to like focus on which one you would like more. I know there are more design roles than research, so if design is something you want to do, then maybe focusing on that aspect.
Yeah,
And build
I think
portfolio based on that.
yeah, specifically for UX research, I think because UX designers would have the experience of researching too. So if you're like searching for jobs as a UX researcher, I think that focus is really important. Don't sell yourself short. You know, you have done your portfolio, a lot of things you have done already. So sell that to the hiring manager or whoever you're interviewing with.
Thank you.
Did Alicia just drop off?
Yeah, I think Alicia might have like accidentally left the room and I became the host for some reason for this Zoom call.
That is funny.
Yeah, like all of a sudden Zoom just...
Well, why don't you close it out for us, Kelsey? As the host.
Wait for Alicia to get back. Not sure. Not sure what's happening. Yeah, I don't know.
Good luck, Kelsey.
Wow. I don't,
It's your opportunity to shine.
don't know.
I think it's good. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, if anyone has any more questions or not, like,
Oh, she's back.
hopefully all of the questions are answered.
Alicia's back, I think.
Oh yeah, yay! Oh my god. I was like very nervous 10 seconds.
So sorry, my internet went out. You know, the joys of being online. So
Kelsey was co-host for a little bit.
Thanks, Kelsey. I appreciate it. Oh yeah, it's, you know, never a dull moment when you're remote. So thank you all, and I'm so happy you all were able to join me and to stay. And yeah, thanks, Kelsey, so much for stepping in. So yeah, I think that was it. Did anybody have anything else they wanna add in as a final send off?
I think feel free to reach out to us. I think all of us are like happy. I mean, I'm speaking for everyone, but I really think all of us are happy to answer your questions as we've gone through this journey. Especially, I know times are tough and this world is in a state of flux. But yeah, definitely happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you. Feel
ahead.
free to reach out if anyone has a question about like product management or project, like in general, PM world, and also question about like visas and that stuff in general. I'm happy to answer that as well.
Yeah. And I'm still pretty interested and curious, like what you guys, I do keep tabs, you know, through the media, and I saw like, you know, Kelsey's Snapchat day in the life. So it's, you guys will do great things, and people are watching. No pressure.
Thanks for tuning in.
It's great to hear you were able to see that. Kelsey was a rock star.
Yeah, that was great.
All right. Well, thank you again. Thank you all for coming tonight, and thanks all the students for coming as well. So that's it for this evening, and I really appreciate it. And if you guys need anything, both students and panelists, please feel free to email me and let me know. And have a wonderful rest of your Thursday and a good weekend. And I hope you are all safe and healthy. And we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Juan.
Good luck.